Hey everybody, it's Shelby from Staying Books, and it's time for my week in review. This will cover the week of October 15th through the 21st. It was a very draining week this week. The restaurant just opened, and I've been working crazy long hours and all over the map and not consistent. So reading this week was a little bit more difficult, but I did manage to finish 5 books, 4 full length and 1 short. Then I slept a lot. a lot, because I was just exhausted. But a new bar is always crazy, and when you're bartending, your hours are ridiculously long. So anyway, this week I started off my week reading Jinxed by Sandrine Gask-Dion. It is number 2 in her The Rock series. This series does focus on a band called the Skull Blasters. So this particular book was about Jinxed, the drummer for the band the Skull Blasters. And Jinx has always been after the female half of the population, but has kind of in the back of his mind always had a little bit of a bi-curious nature. He's just never really explored it much. And in this story, through a couple of random chance encounters, he ends up meeting Jaden Dempsey, who is one of the newly formed boy band, the London Boys. Of course, Jinx has a very negative opinion about boy bands to start this all off and thinks that they have no talent and no musical inclinations, but of course Jaden is also a drummer and majorly musically talented. So there's definitely some tension to start things off between these two as they meet and are attracted to each other. This is just a simple romance. I enjoy Sandrine Gask-Dion's writing. I've mentioned it before, my crack. It's not writing that's like incredibly detailed or in-depth, but there is something about the way she writes characters and the connections between them that I really enjoy. And I particularly liked Jinx and Jaden. I really enjoyed their relationship and the characterization of both of them and how they came together. It is a little rushed. Things do get kind of stumbled through quickly. Jinx's reaction to finding out Jaden was in a boy band was way over the top, and even though there's reasons, they were kind of forced to me. But the relationship between Jinx and Jaden was really, really great, and I really enjoyed them, and I gave this book 4 stars. It was an enjoyable read, it was a quick read, and it just kind of gave me some good relaxation this week that I needed. I could kind of escape for a little bit and just zone out for a couple hours. So I enjoyed this one a lot. I did like this better than the first book in the series, and I'm looking forward to reading the next book because the hints that they've given about the next character that they're going to do, I'm really excited for. So I like this series. I enjoy this quick style of writing, and it's just fun. They're great, easy reads, and just a great way to kind of relax. Book number 2 this week was Simon versus the Homo Sapiens Agenda by Becky Albertalli. I loved this book. It was absolutely a 5-star read, an amazing YA contemporary, just so well written and really, really enjoyable. I loved Simon's character and his voice in this story. This whole story is told from Simon's point of view and alternates chapters between emails that he is sending to a secret friend, Blue, and the 2 boys have admitted to each other that they are gay, but neither one knows who the other is. They know they go to the same school, but they've just been emailing back and forth for months. And there's a growing relationship developing between the 2 of them, but there's nerves about admitting who they really are and finding out who they are. So the alternating chapters go from Simon's current school life, everything that's going on with him, to these emails that are happening between him and Blue. Well, when the book first starts, Simon is getting blackmailed by a classmate, Martin, who wants him to introduce him to one of his friends so that he can date her, and he has discovered Simon's emails to Blue and threatens to post them and out Simon if he does not get him hooked up with this female friend. So the whole story is Simon struggling his way through high school and what's going on and how he feels about what's going on around him and Martin's blackmail and his friends and how his coming out happens. It's just a really beautiful story, really well told, with a great amount of humor and wonderful characters. I absolutely loved the style of this story and finding out who Blue was exactly and what that meant for Simon and his relationship. This is wonderfully written, wonderfully enjoyable. I just absolutely adored reading this book. Book number 3 this week was Faster Than the Speed of Light by Lucius Parhelion. This is a historical romance, and this one was really interesting. I actually enjoyed the story more for the historical elements than the romance, as it is a very, very slow burn romance. In this story, Frank McKenzie is just finishing up his senior year of college. He has used his time in the military to pay for his college education via the GI Bill. This story does take place in the 1950s, just after the end of World War II. It is the height of the fear of communism and the rise of McCarthy and his House Un-American Committee. So this story takes place in a tech college in California where Frank McKenzie is studying physics. He is about to graduate with his degree and be looking into graduate programs, but on a night right before he graduates, he is out at a gay club, essentially, and the club gets busted by the police, and all of them are hauled in on sedition charges. He is arrested with another guy. They hadn't met in the club or anything, but they're put in the same cell together, and this is Dr. Carl Cortland. Now, Dr. Cortland is one of the youngest professors at the college. He is a child prodigy and was actually part of the development of the atomic bomb. And being caught at one of these clubs and condemned would ruin his reputation and whatnot. But it does come from a wealthier sector, and so his influence is able to get both him and Frank out of this situation. Unfortunately, this does lead to the FBI looking into Cole's background because, of course, under the McCarthy era, he could very easily be condemned as a communist for his Nancy boy leanings. And Frank and Dr. Cortland had not met prior to this, but it soon found out that Frank is now going to be his grad student, and of course they are attracted to each other, and the entire story is Frank finishing up his degree, going through grad school, and specializing in what he wants to do as this tension and romantic feelings are developing between the two of them, but they are advisor and student. The younger is technically the teacher, but they are developing this friendship, this wonderful friendship between the two of them as they dive into the intellectual stimulation, meanwhile trying to dodge the FBI guys that are spying on them and bugging their offices and whatnot, trying to find out what side Cole is really on because he's had access to this sensitive material, and the biggest fear the world has is Russia getting the bomb. So it's a great historically placed story. What is going on in the United States under McCarthyism and this fear of the Red Scare and what would happen if Russia got the bomb and how the world could be spun right back into war. I really enjoyed those elements of it. I enjoyed the science and the discussions of these high ideal scientific ideas. And I loved the friendship between Frank and Cole, but because it was such a slow burn and because there was this whole, like, we aren't going to do anything while we're professor and student, and we're pushing it off and pushing it off, like, I just didn't feel like the romance was as much there as I would have liked. I did still give this book 4 stars because I did really enjoy it, and I love the history, and I'm not normally a fan of World War II, but the way that this story was approached, I really enjoyed that aspect of it because it wasn't a part of World War II history that I know as much about, because it's really after the war, and it's dealing with a political climate within the United States that kind of feels very possible in our current political climate with our politics at the moment if things went down a certain path. So it was timely in a way, and I really did enjoy the reading of this story. My last full-length book this week was Colored by Carrie Gregg. This story was nothing like I thought it was going to be. I went into this based on the cover going, oh God. But I knew people had really enjoyed it, and I knew not to judge this book by the cover because the cover is terrible. And I knew it was a BDSM novel because of the title and kind of what people had said about it, but what I didn't realize was how dystopian this story was. It was an incredibly interesting take on how to create a BDSM society. Basically, in this story, there has been a genetic shift within the population because of synthesized crops, and the shift has caused most of the population to become increasingly aggressive. But in 1 in 1,000 people, this same modification has instead of turning them aggressive, completely wiped out all of their aggression and made them incredibly submissive. And they have labeled these people as anomalies. If you are one of those anomalies, you basically need to have a dom or someone to protect you because everyone wants to take you on and control you. And there's like this weird chemistry vibe going between those more dominant personalities and these submissive personalities. And in the story, Connor Witt is a normal, quiet IT tech before these mutations began. Connor is struggling to fend for himself and needs someone to claim him. Early in the story, David Martin, who is his boss and CEO of the company, can't see him being spun around the way he has been and mistreated by all of these people trying to claim him, and decides to claim him for himself. Only David Martin is straight, engaged, and wants to maintain the engagement he had before everything in the world shifted. But because of Connor's nature, he is still so drawn to Connor and is giving Connor part of what he needs, but not everything, because he won't give him the sexual side of it. And in the same building, Emmett Drake has his security company. He is also gay and drawn to Connor and wants to take him on as his sub. Connor is split between the two men. The gentling side of David he really appreciates, and the sexual side of Emmett. And so it kind of is a clash of these three men as they try and work things out. I really found the way that they structured the nature of humans being what changed to create this dom-sub society as really, really interesting. It was such a different take, and it doesn't focus entirely on the BDSM world. They set it up as if these changes have happened, and so in order to adapt to it and deal with it, they have taken on parts of the BDSM community to kind of give structure to it. And it also deals with a lot of the political climate and what it means to now be these anomalies, and the way the government is reacting is taking away a lot of the rights of these people because they need to be protected and want to submit so much that they are basically turning them straight into slaves, and they are taking away a lot of the human rights that they would assume they would have. And Connor is torn in his own head over this nature need to submit and his mental capacity saying, but I still am a human being and I still deserve these rights. And I'm really, really bummed because as of right now, this author has never written a sequel to this book. And while it does end in a way that is okay, it is very much feels like it should have a sequel. I would love to see another book in this world and to have these three men trying to balance and figure out exactly what's going to happen between them. It brought up a lot more questions than it solved, in that I wanted more depth of the world and go into more of what was changing. It was such an interesting concept and idea. I did give the book 4 stars because I did enjoy it. It was totally engrossing, and I really felt for Connor in this story. I was with him 100%, but I just want more. It was so interesting and unique, and yet I didn't get quite as much as I would like. I want a longer story and more in this world. But right now, it's the only one that exists, unfortunately. My last short this week was Overtime by Avon Gale. It is book 3.5 in her Scoring Chances series. And this was just a fun, tiny little short, touching base with a couple of characters that are going to be featured in the next book in the series. And it picks up right after the last book ended. This series focuses on essentially AAA hockey. So it's the feeder leagues of the NHL. At the end of the last book, the finals were coming up, and the team that got beat out just before the finals is going to feature one of the guys from the next book. So Isaac takes a bunch of his teammates to go watch these finals, and they are cheering against the team that beat them, their arch rivals. In the story, Isaac feels guilty about going and doing this because it's not something his coach would have approved of, and he lives with his coach and has been told by the owner who paid for them all to go not to tell the coach. And of course it has this lovely little moments between Misha and Isaac as they discuss what happened and what it means to be a good player, and hints at the other guy from their rival team that's going to be the other partner in this romance in the next book. So I gave this 4 stars. It is cute. It's short. It's just a fun little vignette. I can't wait to read this next book. I have it planned for next month because it was picked for a couple of challenges for me, so it will definitely be a November read. And I was supposed to read it this month, but I'm actually putting it off because it got picked for me for another challenge. Anyway, those were my books this week. It was a long week. It was an exhausting week. Hopefully now that the restaurant is open, things will start to settle into more of a normal pattern. And I will get back to my normal reading habits. But it's been, because of all the stress and stuff, it's just been really hard for me to focus when I'm reading. And I keep putting things down, not because I'm not enjoying the book, just because I'm so tired, all I want to do is sleep. But I hope everybody else had a great week, and if you like this video, give it a thumbs up, subscribe, hopefully leave me some comments down below what you thought if you've read any of these, and I will talk to y'all soon. Have a great day. Bye!